Alright, here we are. Howdy, Petersonian.
How are you doing?
Doing well. Thank you very much for joining me for this stream. So let's see.
Glad to be here.
We are in the elimination portion of Matchup Madness, largest Exceed tournaments to date, hosted and organized by Taxicab. Thanks, Taxi. And this is going to be, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation. I'm going to guess Cerdin versus MadFnorder.
MadFnorder.
Give or take. Alright.
Good old Fnord.
Round to the nearest syllable. Alright, let's
Yeah.
see. They've already chosen their first characters. I'm going to get that up on the screen. Looks like we have Beheaded versus EXSK, as we like to refer to Shovel Knight and Shield Knights, the tag team duo from Season 4.
Yeah, Beheaded's already at a disadvantage because he's fighting people.
Sure enough. That's alright, because as he gains levels, or exceeds, he accumulates more traits, which basically make him as strong as any two characters put together. So if he can last long enough... Oh, here we go. Trademark MadFnorder maneuver. He forgot to shuffle before drawing his starting hands.
It's a pro strat. It really is.
It is. Gives you a good look at those normals in case you forgot what they do.
It's like shark in your first game of pool. You throw the first one, you make them take it home in the final round.
Wait, sorry. Did you say you throw a shark in your first game at the pool?
If he's playing Minato, then yes.
Oh, good point, actually. Well, there's a Minato on his team, but we haven't seen it come out first. Let me put this matchup on the screen, actually.
Turtle the turtle. So they both milled. Milled. Ooh, I'm jumping the gun here already.
Wrong character.
They both mulliganed and are getting ready to start.
Looks like Beheaded will have first turn. So for those not familiar, as I just alluded, Beheaded wants to exceed multiple times in a game. So he has a very strong emphasis on landing hits. He does not like to miss. He needs to accumulate gauge quickly as possible. So this is probably something... Well, this is probably something that'll either hit, or it could be blocked, because that pretty confidently assures he's going to get the gauge out of it one way or the other.
Shield and Shovel do have a lot of opening options, though. When Shield Knight's standing on Shovel Knight, any of his advance effects will move him further, one space further.
That effect is optional, it's worth noting, so if for some reason they don't need to move that far, they don't have to. It is the block, it is the spike. Evidently calling out a dive attack, which is a move that would have put Beheaded at range 2 after it had fully resolved. Dive into infantry bow. Shovel Knight chooses to use that extra advance to move past Beheaded, putting Beheaded between Shovel and Shield. Alright, we're off to a pretty aggressive start. These players are wasting no time at all. Alright, defend interest play. And
This yarn with me. Oh!
Grasp into grasp. Alright, so EXSK are going to hit first and push Beheaded 2 spaces, dealing 2 damage.
It's funny, I don't actually usually see grasp into grasp.
It is unusual. It means that the defender tried to call out something, some sort of mid-speed, and was unsuccessful. Playing defend kind of invites a mid-speed, so playing grasp on defense makes sense here. Looks like Beheaded initiates at range 3 with Assault, which is going to trade down against the Charge Slash. Charge Slash is basically a sweep shape. It is 6 guard. Does 5 damage in this case.
Game is going so fast. I brought all my yarn with me, but I'm not going to get anything done here. It is National Quilting Day, and I was ready to make myself a beautiful throw blanket, and I don't think it's going to happen.
I am pretty sure that Beheaded did not take the full damage from that attack. Alright. Trying to correct that game state. Beheaded has exceeded, getting his first trait. That is Brutality. Well,
have extra damage on this.
Alright, looks like we have Shield Boomerang being boosted. That is Shovel of Hope, which is draw 4 cards and add this to your gauge. Light in return from Beheaded, getting a total of +3 speed, +1 power, or +3 if he plays a special or ultra, because his special and ultras have +2 power thanks to Brutality for the rest of the game. My goodness, the rate this is going, even if you don't have time to quilt, you'll have quite a yarn to spin afterwards.
Yes.
Alright, it is EXSK's turn, trying to decide how to respond to that light. We have a moment to catch our breaths.
Yeah, also worth noting, it is National Countdown Day, and we are counting down to the end of this first round.
Quite rapidly. Life has dropped from 30 to 18 on Beheaded side. However, I would not say that he's actually behind in this case, because he can claim an advantage here. He plays dive against the sweep, jumping over
Ooh.
EXSK to the corner, dodging that sweep, dealing 6 damage.
Diving right off the board and recovering his footing.
Took a bit too far. The board is only 9 spaces wide, and you will stop at the edge if you would go past it. The dive there was probably to counter the Shield Boomerang, which was the telegraph threat from EXSK. Shield Boomerang hits ranges 2 to 4 from Shield Knights, and if you're in range of that attack, you can't hit Shovel Knights. It's a very strong move with a lot of coverage, a lot of safety. Diving over Shovel into the corner took Beheaded out of range of it, making that safe against Shield Boomerang. Shovel and Shield initiating. They have Beheaded in the corner, but Beheaded responds with an EX attack.
EX.
Assault Shield, which has 3 armor, meaning he will take no damage, although he will not have the range to hit back.
Yes, close to. It's kind of costly, but it didn't take him down much in health.
Just spend 2 cards to take no damage and gain some footing. Range 2 is a good range for him. It does mean he has to be a little bit concerned about the possibility of Shield Boomerang, but at some point you're just going to lose that card. That's life. He only has 1 gauge. He wants to land another hit so that he can get another trait pretty much ASAP.
Now, we did talk to MadFnorder at the beginning of the game to ask him why he plays so fast, and he let us in on a little trade secret. It turns out he doesn't have blood in his body. He had an operation done years ago to replace all of his fluids with Red Bull.
Oh, well, that makes perfect sense. It is strange, though, because he is not playing Geoffrey, who is the one who has Holy Wings. In fact, I don't think anyone on his team has wings.
Not yet.
I see. So he can bestow wings on them, although it's the opponent who's running Geoffrey in this player matchup, I think. I'll be curious to see how the Red Bull versus Geoffrey matchup turns out. Higher speed is not always helpful against Geoffrey. But back to the match at hand. We have Shovel and Shield at range 3, stacking up on top of each other to provide maximum array of options, although this does make Shield Boomerang less threatening, because now it cannot prevent Beheaded from closing into range 1 and hitting. Things are certainly moving in a whirl. That is Tornado, a +1 speed with now Advanced Retreat 1. Pretty effective boost. Beheaded has very good neutral play. Shovel and Shield are tacticians. They have a lot of movement effects, but Beheaded has a decent number of little stat boosts, which let him get the edge in quick encounters like this.
And now that Beheaded can hit with 2 harder, it's going to be harder to trade evenly with him.
Yep. All right. So, speaking of movements, we have an advanced 1, take another action, and choosing to strike. So at range 2, this makes Shield Boomerang a pronounced threat. Beheaded has +1 speed, however, so can cover quite a few options depending on what he chooses to play in defense. Range 2 is also a very comfortable range for Beheaded. One moment, I need to check a... Alright, it is Spike, and... Oh, wow, that is Twin Daggers in response. That comes out at speed 6, and will hit for 5 damage thanks to Brutality, which stuns the Spike. Very effective response by Beheaded. Gets rid of that speed boost, but gives him 2 gauge, which will let him exceed again to gain another traits. Beheaded levels up.
For anyone who doesn't know Beheaded as a character, notice that when he attacks after exceeding, he flips back over to normal side, so the +1 power +1 speed he has is not permanent, but all the traits he gains are.
That is correct. He has a short-lived combat improvements and a long-term bonus to all of his specials and ultras. Shovel and Shield have a much more situational exceed. They don't really want to exceed every game. It is a 3 gauge cost, and they have some strong ultras to threaten, but it allows Shovel Knight to move Shield Knight instantly to any space, and as an action, they can Shovel can move Shield to any space for the rest of the game. Like, they just gain that capability. Okay, here we have Shovel Drop, which is kind of a Tatsu. So speed 5 is going to be outsped by Cross, but Cross only deals 4 damage, 3 after armor, which will not stun. Alright, since it does not stun, Shovel advances, corner is Beheaded, hits in return for 5. We have a parry, unsuccessful. Shovel's hand is revealed. It is 047 or Block Dive Grasp. They are going to change cards that hand, together with an Ultra from Gauge, to get a proper reload. Stocking up to a hand of at least 6 cards from the look of it. Spending 5 force, drawing 6 total. Makes sense. Alright, life is very close. Beheaded has an advantage, but we'll still have to worry about that other Shield Boomerang coming out and bopping for a pretty free 6 damage at some point.
This has been a pretty violent game. Both, all three competitors on the field are looking pretty bloody at this point.
I would tend to agree. Shield can't be hit directly by attacks. Interesting that Beheaded chose to move on top of Shield. This enables a high-low mix-up with Shield Knight because she has 2 cards, Shield Gong and Buckler Blow. One is speed 7, one is speed 2.
Speed 7, right?
That's correct. The speed 7 is basically a DP, Dragon Punch, for those familiar with fighting games. It's a fast attack that comes out quickly to pop mid-speeds, but it is vulnerable against slower moves. However, in this board state, because of the range that they are currently at, it doesn't really lose to slower moves either, because it can move Beheaded out of position, preventing him from counterattacking. So with that mix-up live, have to wonder what Beheaded has planned. Alright.
Fans who are watching in the safety of their homes while we complete this tournament for dominance of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
We'd like to remind everyone that it is National Corn Dog Day, so please check under your seats, and if you have the winning number announced at halftime, you get to take home all the corn dogs we could find at the store.
If, while checking under your seat, you find a corn dog, please do not eat that. Turn that into lost and found.
Yes, I misplaced mine earlier, and I'm still pretty hungry.
Mm-hmm. Do we have veggie corn dogs? Vigilante asks. I'm not sure. Are there any corn dogs that were raised on an all-vegetable diet?
Yes, actually, but not vegetables. We went with a experimental fruit-flavored corn dog, which we are also demoing today as part of National California Strawberry Day.
Ah, I see. Well, I'm sure nothing could go wrong. Be sure to gather all of your friends and relatives to get... here
we go.
All right. Beheaded boosts with plus 0 to range hit gain advantage. So that gives him a wide range of threats, especially because with tactics in play, that means his specials and ultras have plus 0 to 2 range. That means plus 2 maximum range. Shovel has to respond to those threats, and it's going to be somewhat difficult. Beheaded can actually hit with his speed 7 ultra from here. That's Wave of Denial, which would push Shovel Knight to the wall and deal, 6 damage, I think? Pretty substantial threat. Alright, Shovel Knight runs in to range 1. Alright, not afraid of that threat, and going to defuse the value of the range boosts by simply standing in Beheaded's face, such as it is. I'm not sure he actually has a face, come to think of
it. Standing in Beheaded's visage.
Yes, his viscous visage. That's a better way to put it. His features are certainly malleable, but his focus...
If I'm not correct, so the players today, Cerdin and MadFnorder, high-level summoners that are able to bring these combatants to blow in this tournament, but we don't usually see summoners using Beheaded's head throw technique, which I'm pretty sure is canon.
I am unfamiliar with the original story. I will say that the precedent set by other characters in Exceed would suggest that every character who has a detachable head should have some sort of projectile maneuver. Which will let them...
Maybe all of Taisei's projectiles are him throwing his head at people?
It seems like the most reasonable explanation to me.
I believe it from now on.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Ashen Claws obviously is him detaching an arm instead, but Nightmare Tears... well, I mean, that seems pretty nightmarish to me, to tear someone's head off
you heard it here.
Across the board.
All of Taisei's projectiles are him throwing his head at people.
Mm-hmm. And it's very slow, because he has to run over and retrieve it, obviously. It is Shovel Knight's turn, I believe. They ran into range... Actually, no, hold on. What did Beheaded do after Shovel Knight ran into range 1? Did I miss it?
He might have prepared.
Ah, yes, probably.
Is it 7 cards now?
Ah, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yep. Oh, we have a reading. Speaking of 7 cards, that is a nice juicy hand of 7 cards.
No,
and the reading whiffs. Oof. Alright, so we do see some normals here. So the reading was not on Focus, Spike, Dive, or Grasp. At range 1, that suggests that it was on an Assault, or possibly a Cross. It's
so
unusual to reading...
something that's 7 speed here.
It's unusual to reading a block or a sweep at range 1, although it's possible. In particular, if Shovel Knight is playing a tandem attack, they could reading sweep and try to crush it. Or if they... Okay, now here we go.
Yep.
Alright, so Assault's going to hit for 2 damage after armor, and then take 4. And because of that boost effect, Beheaded will steal advantage from Shovel Knight.
That makes me wonder what he read.
It must have been Assault, hoping to win that speed tie. At least I think that's the likeliest play. Alright, confirming that the opponent has his hand well in hand, is going to pick it up and probably strike. Although with 2 gauge, it's also tempting for Beheaded to exceed immediately. That would give him his third and final traits of Survival, which gives his Specials and Ultras +1 armor +2 guard. Nope, he's going to do it the old-fashioned way.
+1 armor +3 guard.
It's a bit more direct. That is Spike entering play, getting rid of a vulnerable normal from hands, and providing extra defenses on all of his attacks. Shovel Knight is down to 8 life. Shield Knight not providing any additional defense in this case. That means, well, Beheaded is looking to close the game in the next 2 strikes. Alright, Shovel Knight initiates. So this could be a lot of things. Could be a cheeky tandem trying to get some big damage numbers in. Likelier to be something evasive or very safe. Shovel and Shield need to be pretty careful here. Alright. That'll be pretty even. Shield
Not
gone.
the worst.
Yep, that's the slow half of the mix-up. So Beheaded is going to take 3 damage after armor, and then close back in and hit for 3 damage after armor. So basically both players will... 2 damage after armor. 2 damage. So takes 3, deals 2.
I believe he's paying for the cost, the force special.
Right. It was Beheaded took 1 too much damage because of defend, or because they forgot to defend. We've accounted for that now. Life is corrected. It is Beheaded's turn. Wait. Oh no, Beheaded hit first. My mistake. So yes, Beheaded hits first and then is pushed away. Alright. Boost Tornado, +1 speed, now retreat 1. Moving to range 3, setting up potentially a Twin Daggers or a Wrenching Whip. Thanks to tactics, he can threaten a lot of things here. Still, at only 8 life, he's not exactly safe.
No, not at all. And anyone who's MadFnorder before knows that his major weakness is Wild Swing. He loses to them constantly.
This is true. Wild Swing is a very effective defensive maneuver. If you're new to Exceed, whenever somebody attacks, the opponent must hit a counterattack. But if you don't want to use a card from your hands during a strike, you may choose to use the top card of your deck, whatever it may be. This means you don't have direct control over what it is, although you can still get a sense of it by counting your discard pile. But it doesn't use a card from your hands. So if you look at your hand and you know that it just doesn't work here, don't waste your resources. Wild Swing. Or if you're up against Mad, you should just Wild Swing all the time.
Yes.
Much like with me and Spike, he's simply not capable of beating a Wild Swing. Little known vulnerability in high-level play.
Everyone has to have some weakness.
And Beheaded seems to have a shortage of them. Alright. Oh, there's the Twin Daggers. Going to hit for 5. Does not do lethal. And then takes 6 in return.
We'll take back 6 and lose a card. This really is a game.
This is extremely dangerous. The main advantage to this was that I believe that was initiated by Shovel and Shield, yes?
Yes.
That being the case, it means Beheaded, who is only at 2 life, only needs to deal 1 damage to...
And he's exceeded his +1 speed now.
Yes. He only needs to deal 1 damage to close the game. He now has all of his traits in play. He is fully leveled up, and he has +1 power, +1 speed due to having just exceeded. So it will not be too difficult for him to land that final blow if he has anything in hand he can use to confirm to a kill.
But he does not know he's fighting against a Spaniard, and Spaniards never quit.
Ah, yes, never go up against a Spaniard when death is on the line. Wait a second. That's not quite...
I think that's right. I'm going to take your word for it, because after all, it is national...
you cut out there for a moment.
I said I'm going to take your word for it, because after all, it is National Common Courtesy Day.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. I've been trying to collect rare courtesies, but they never seem to drop. Shovel moves Shield Knight 1 space closer, threatening the Shield Boomerang at range 2 to 4. This is actually pretty scary for Beheaded. He's going to take the move action to get out of that threat range. Alright, this makes it very difficult for Shovel Knight to position Shield Knight to threaten Shield Boomerang, which means it's difficult for Shovel Knight to do anything that will survive the upcoming slaughter.
What is Shovel Knight's exceed cost?
Their exceed cost is 3, which they could choose to do right now to... Oh?
Yes, which will let them instantly position Shield Knight.
This is true.
This brings Shield Boomerang back online, if I'm not mistaken.
End of turn draw. There we go. It does bring it back online. They're going to now play some fixes. Let's retreat.
Ooh. I'm not sure what to do.
Yeah, it's fine. When he played that boost, he advanced only 2 spaces. Yes.
This is the most important game of footsies Beheaded has ever played in his life.
Okay. So Beheaded made a misplay of resolving an advanced retreat 3 as an advanced 2 effect. They are now trying to correct the game state. Alright, he was having a quick discussion with his opponent about how to correctly resolve that, and still drew the same card at end of turn.
Yeah, that is the better position for him, because now he's once again out of the range of Shield Boomerang.
Although if he had been on the other side, he could still threaten to play an Assault. Alright, so Shovel and Shield are choosing to threaten the Buckler Blow instead of the Shield Boomerang here. Alright. So Shovel... Yeah, so Buckler Blow is a quick speed 7, deals 2 damage. That is threatening lethal against anything that isn't too special or ultra. It is just barely possible for Beheaded to beat it, depending on what he has available. He might also try to boost for here, since he does have more consistent stat boosts than Shovel and Shield Knight.
He's going to move too.
Yep, taking that move action to move into the mid-range. That avoids the Buckler Blow, or at least moves out of its start range for the moment. Walking back into range of Shield Boomerang, eventually is going to have to do something about that threat, because Exceed, Shovel, and Shield can reposition every turn.
Oh. And there it is. The reading into that hand is 7. Let's hope he gets something he's fishing for.
If he can land this, and he does not.
Ooh. This might be game. Let's see.
It depends what he threw. If he actually played something like a cross, then the reading would be safe even against Shield Boomerang. And Shovel and Shield will need to be careful about that. For those wondering about the eye that just appeared, there's only 1 card left in MadFnorder's deck, so with the opponent's permission, he asked to check the last card to save the time of counting cards. Alright, it is the Shield Boomerang. It is the cross! Alright, that will burn the gauge and the Shield Boomerang threats, moving Beheaded to range. His Swift, that is to say his +1/+1, has now expired, but he defused the Shield Boomerang threat. I would say that was well worth it.
Yeah, he did not get hit, which is huge.
He misordered his discard pile, but Beheaded doesn't care about discard pile order, so it's not a big deal. Alright, they reposition to threaten that Buckler Blow again. This is interesting. There's actually... I can think of a couple things that make Buckler Blow... So Buckler Blow only has 2 power, if I recall correctly. And because of Beheaded's survival trait, that means it will neither stun nor kill through a special or ultra by Beheaded. This is fairly relevant at this late game state, because it means even if it's faster, the Beheaded might be able to hit back.
Yes.
Alright, since the reading whiffed, the opponent is now revealing their hand for a longer period to give Mad the opportunity to take some notes. Now that he's done so, they conclude that in-turn draw. They probably should shuffle their hand at this stage to make it not obvious which of those cards they're pulling in case he was paying attention. But that is, of course, player choice. Beheaded takes the reshuffle action, drawing for an turn. Alright, building up those options.
Common courtesy day, I'm assuming that Mad just kept his eyes closed. Oh, here we go.
Alright, we have initiating strike from Shovel and Shield. This is threatening to be Shield Gong and or Buckler Blow. Well, not and or Buckler Blow, which would... Shield Gong threatens lethal, but is easier to dodge. Buckler Blow does not threaten lethal. What in the world? Oh, playing it for the armor. Okay, so... Buckler Blow is going to hit first, winning that speed tie, pop for 1 after armor, and choosing one or the other direction to push Beheaded. Pushes him closer, evidently. Beheaded will then miss with his range of 1 to 2, but because of that 1 armor, he is not dead. Alright, that gives Beheaded 1 more chance to try to win this game.
Who do you favor at this position?
Now I would favor Beheaded. The only thing that mitigates that is the fact that Beheaded has very, very few options available to him. He has 1 card engaged, 1 card in hand. Probably going to take a change cards action in the near future, hoping to draw into something that will actually let him close the game. I think in general he has a statistical advantage, especially because Shovel and Shields do not have the gauge to threaten. Oh, this could, however, be a discovery. But Shovel and Shield need to play something pretty fast to be confident they can hit first, thanks to Beheaded's extra range on tactics. If he happens to top deck something like a Twin Daggers, it will be just nearly impossible to contest him. Yeah, it was arguably a mistake to push Beheaded closer. However, at long range, if Beheaded was still threatening a copy of Marksman Bow, Infantry Bow, excuse me, there are two very similarly named items from the source material, Dead Cells, so I mixed them up. Either way, the bow. Then
the non-head chucking projectile.
Exactly. At least I don't think it's... Yeah. We've been assaulted into a Wrenching Whip, which will close the game in Shovel and Shield's favor. Unfortunate. Wrenching Whip loses that speed tie.
Oh, and MadFnorder explodes into a massive pile of salt. So fun fact about MadFnorder, he is the Emperor of Salt, which in our Dark Apocalypse time is a necessary resource to pilot our starships. But, oh, oof.
This is true. Anyone experienced in the Discord community, or at least... veterans of the Discord community, I should say, will recognize Mad as Emperor of Salt from his days in Season 2 playtesting. He is still the reigning king, although I'm sure many efforts will be made to supplant him in this most competitive of events.
Yeah, but I mean, I did not know that Shovel Knight was a killing word.
All right, let us see with what they shall next be approaching. I'm going to switch over to that overlay. So with Shovel and Shield out, that leaves Geoffrey and Zsolt against Beheaded Carl or Minato. Do you think we'll see Beheaded come out again?
That game was so close. He's probably feeling pretty confident about it. His other two choices, I'm not quite ready at the time.
Yeah, he lost by the skin of his,
Jerkin.
Yeah.
Tattered Jerkin.
There you go. Yeah, Jerkins have skin. It works. So he might try that again. He also might run Minato or Carl. These are all reasonable picks. Matt is a strong player with each of them. Minato is particularly infamous in his case because he has won 2 consecutive PAX Unplugged tournaments, one of our 2 major real-life events, together with Gen Con, with his Minato being the featured character on his team during both of those events.
Now, you know MadFnorder better than I do. Does he favor them with actual buses, or does he favor the Dirtle the Turtle strategy?
My understanding is that he is ready to conjure a demonic automobile to splatter his opponents into pieces at the slightest provocation. The Dirtle the Turtle, or Minato, as we have affectionately nicknamed that line of play with Minato, is when you use Hellraiser. Oh, we have a selection.
Geoffrey.
Oh boy, speaking of Dirtle the Turtle, Geoffrey is a character who has tools that prevent him from easily being decked out. He has transformation that lets him skip his end of turn draw in return for gaining life, but it only works if he's low on life. And he has tools...
Cerdin says, not today, Mr. Red Bull. I'm channeling the power of the siesta.
In the siesta?
Yes, he's using his slow, laid-back nature to channel extra armor into his attack.
I see. If you want to attack his high print speed, yep, that makes sense. Against a Red Bull empowered opponent, it makes perfect sense to combat wings with wings. Holy Wings is a very powerful movement boost on Geoffrey that lets him move any number of spaces and then spin a gauge to recur it. So it's somewhat expensive, but it gives him unparalleled mobility, either to move in close for trading heavily, or to move to range and fire off some of his projectiles. This should be interesting. Emrakul asked, when is Gen Con? Gen Con is in August. We've yet to determine if it's going to... Like, if Gen Con itself will be canceled this year. As far as I know, it's still on, though. But it is usually the first week of August. Unfortunately, I think it does overlap with EVO. So our fighting game fans have to split their attention and choose one or the other.
Here we go. I believe this is the final mulligan. Yeah. We're ready to start off.
It's not Mole. It's Minato and Geoffrey. Mole Knight is a character from Season 4.
No. Yes. I get them confused.
Easy to do. They both wear red, I think. Wait, actually, is Minato wearing red?
No, Minato just dry. He's got a red tie.
Yeah, he's a red tie. I guess it counts.
I'm going to give it to you. It's common courtesy day after all.
That's true. I'll take it. It is just as courteous to accept courtesy as it is to offer it. So Minato's going to have first play here. This is an interesting matchup because Minato does have projectiles. They tend to be faster than Geoffrey's, which is actually kind of a problem for him. Being faster means Geoffrey has better defenses and will be able to trade up by hitting back harder. So Minato's
and Geoffrey,
not
even though he doesn't look like it, is actually a bit of a ranged character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's the deceptively long hair that makes it hard to tell. Geoffrey's hair actually cascades down his back in a glorious waterfall of chestnut brown, but it is not pictured on this card.
Do you think Geoffrey uses his hair as bowstrings?
I'm sure of it. So golden arrow. If you look at the art very carefully, the entire string is out of frame. That's because it is two separate braids of Geoffrey's hair connecting the ends of the angelic decrees, which are comprising the what would be the wooden part of his bow, attaching to each other.
You guys, in the bleachers, you aim for zombie apocalypse exceed tournaments, and you're getting the deep dives into the Seventh Cross lore that you never knew existed.
Indeed. Bring a razor, shave his head, then he becomes weaker. Well, at least at range. In melee, he'll still trade with you because he's got a big sword. All right, we have an unsuccessful parry, probably looking for Inquisition, and we'll reveal a hand of 6, 7, Bastion, Sacraments, and Crusader's Oath. That is an extremely annoying card. So the card that he was probably pairing, and the reason I say he's probably pairing it, Inquisition, is because Minato is kind of a squirrely fellow who doesn't like answering questions, and Geoffrey tends to be a little bit invasive. So it really impinges on his personal space, and he's uncomfortable with it. So I can't really blame him for the parry here. Oh, also it has a really good transformation, which can effectively turn off a lot of players' game plans. So getting it out of the way. Sorry? Oh, dear.
Nothing. Geoffrey used his secret tech to draw his entire deck, but Minato said no.
All right, we have a change cards attempting to change out for the entire deck due to a mistyped draw number. Take care of that in real life.
Common courtesy will only take you so far.
Yes, this requires at least an uncommon courtesy, and in some cases it might need a secret rare courtesy. So Minato seals the top 3 cards of his deck for +3 speed on his next attack, telegraphing a spike or a bus stop here. They're asking how Minato got 2 turns in a row.
He didn't. Geoffrey changed cards.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I missed there.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but Dirtle parried incorrectly. Geoffrey changed cards, and then Minato boosted.
There was a strike at some points in there, because Capstan disengage and Geoffrey's at 2 life.
I was distracted by my corn dog.
Okay, he did not initiate with Capstans. Okay. The game state's moving so fast, it is difficult to catch up. I personally blame the Red Bull. But yeah, evidently it was Minato preps, Geoffrey initiates, Minato responds with Capstans, ends up in the corner, and then parries. Geoffrey changes cards, Minato boosts with Streetcar, and now we're all caught up. Geoffrey's going to play a reading, trying to call out a normal from that hands.
Oh, he gets it.
Successful. Wait, what? The focus actually is going to hit first.
Not at plus 3 speed.
Yeah, that'll be a trade. Minato hits first with 4, does not stun the spike, and then takes 5 damage in return. Interesting play here. Alright. That boost does leave play, meaning Minato can't threaten his own spike or bus stop, so it's still decent value for Geoffrey. Is it Geoffrey or is it Geoffrey?
Geoffrey.
Geoffrey. I like it. Alright, so Geoffrey into Minato is looking more and more interesting. They're trading roughly evenly. Minato has built 3 gauge, but... Okay, so Minato prepares, Geoffrey initiates range 2. This is always a little bit chancy. Geoffrey has a nice array of mix-ups because the normals give you a stable set of options at all speeds. His kit kind of wants him to play slow and trade, but he can mix you up that way by playing something faster and taking by surprise if you try to beat a slow option.
One of the real beauties of Exceed is that everyone has access to the same normals.
Case in point.
There it is.
Yep. So Minato tries to play a Spike to crush a slow defensive move, and Geoffrey responds with Assault. Which is interesting. You wouldn't normally expect MadFnorder to lose to Assault, as he is the Emperor of Salt, but it proves that some subjects will always be rebellious. Alright, looks like he is sealing 4 more cards on top of his deck for +4 speed on his next attack.
A salt must flow.
Mm-hmm. Alright, at range 1, this really only telegraphs the possibility of either a barnstorming to dive across the board at blazing speed, evading Geoffrey's counterattacks, or a bus stop, trying to land that transformation guaranteed. The transformation bus stop means that anything, if he lands it, means that anything in his sealed transformation area will be considered an EX attack, granting it +1 power, speed, armor, and guard. This is very, very potent in Minato's kits, so getting that at some point in the game really cements his playstyle into being a stats monster instead of just kind of an evasive, floaty carboy.
That's my favorite anime stereotype.
Ah, yes, the carboy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's actually some animations from an earlier, younger version of Minato transforming into a car somewhere on the internet. I will leave others to find them.
I think he was actually the original actor for the Mystery Machine.
That makes sense. I imagine that would be a pretty difficult role to uphold. I've heard Shaggy was not the most pleasant fictional character to work with.
Yeah, but man, when that cast got joking, Minato had a real hard time keeping a straight face. Yeah, the outtakes for season 1 are amazing.
Oh man, I would love to see some of that. We have a reading from Geoffrey. Going to again try to call a normal out. Successful, and okay, once again gets hit first, but trades. This time he only takes 2 damage by the much faster grasp, and hits back for 6 in a card. That is a speed 11 grasp.
Maybe the first 11 speed grasp I've seen.
Have you ever seen a speed 5 block? Because I have.
No, I have not.
Oh, correction, speed 6.
I don't think anyone would see a speed 5 block coming.
It was surprising. I'll give it that. All right. So that does pass the turn to Minato, and at range 2, oh no! The random discard pulls Bus Stop. That vaunted transformation now rendered much more difficult for Minato to reacquire.
Things are looking up for Geoffrey.
Yep. You might say that was in fact a really unfortunate random discard.
I would say that actually.
I don't doubt it. Well, the bus has stopped, but it could potentially be restarted. Minato is one of the characters who is characterized by card recursion, or in this case, recursion. He is able to retrieve cards from his discard by putting them in his sealed area, and then bouncing them from his sealed area using 2 of his boost effects. That's actually one of the reasons that he would be so concerned about the transformation on Inquisition. It can prevent him from playing boosts, which means his recursion engine can become offline.
If anyone's just joining us for the stream, this is Petersonian, co-streamer, and my co-streamer, D's Nice Puns.
Hi. Yep, I am D, aka tirankin, or Daniel Tiger for short. We are hosting this stream of Matchup Madness. This is the elimination portion of the tournament. Matchup Madness is the largest Exceed event ever run to date. Some 90-odd participants, organized by Taxi Cab. Thanks, Taxi. Let's see. That was initiated by Geoffrey, and then Minato prepped, yes? Oh, we have a reading.
Another. Will this be the 3rd successful reading in a game?
If it lands, it certainly will. Alright, Barnstorming Pops deals 2 damage, but importantly, that hit effect means that Minato will shuffle his discard pile into his deck, and then gain advantage. So that means all those cards that he has lost access to for one reason or another will return to his deck, and this does not consume his once per game reshuffle. Alright, he also gains advantage and repositions far, far away. So Geoffrey does have those projectiles to threaten, and they tend to beat Minato's faster projectiles by trading up against them. It looks like he's taking a move action, deciding how much force to spend. Yep.
Now, I'm curious, D's Nice Puns. What's your favorite way to celebrate National Fragrance?
I'm sorry, it's National Witch Day?
A Fragrance Day. Nice sense.
Oh. Well, I don't have much of a sense for it, I'll be honest.
I'm beginning to celebrate National Countdown Day by counting down. Don't have to be here for these puns.
That's understandable. So let's see. I believe we had a prepare and then another prepare, or was that perhaps a change cards action?
It's understandable, but I don't know if it's cab-standable.
Yeah, I lost track. I think that was a change card action, which would put it back on Geoffrey. Wait, isn't that the name of a planet in Doctor Who?
You could name literally anything, and I would believe you.
Is that because of common courtesy, or is that because of Doctor Who?
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who?
Right. That one. Alright.
+2 speed.
And by the way, the shortstop. Alright, +2 speed. Let's see. At range 3, this is actually pretty scary. Geoffrey has dropped 1 spike, assault, and dive, but is still threatening every component in that mix-up. There's attack, yep. Alright. So Minato does not want to deal with that.
So what's interesting about that is that is it playing +2 speed? Is that he still has to beat out the higher printed speed on an attack. So even though he's boosting the speed of his own attack, if I'm reading this right, it wouldn't actually change his ability.
It doesn't change his ability, right? His character ability specifically says if the opponent's attack is higher printed speed, which means he can outspeed someone and still gain the armor and guard if the printed speed of his attack was lower than theirs. Alright, we have a parry. Looks like it was unsuccessful, causing Minato to reveal his hands. Oh my goodness, what a hand this is. Alright, so we see the immediate transformation of Bus Stop. Not afraid of that reading threats with the cross in hands because he is getting value out of having these transformations available immediately. That's actually pretty terrifying. Minato has all of his engine components in front of him. He has the boost on Hellward Bound, so let him return cards from sealed area to his hands, such as Cab Stands, which is the other boost that lets him return cards from sealed area to his hands. He has Bus Stop's transformation, giving him extra stats for having stuff sealed, and he has Flight 13, which lets him seal cards selectively when he sets his attack. So it's a very, very short period of time before he's going to be fully set up. Geoffrey decides to initiate with a attack at range 3 after that's transformation action. This is purely a mix-up. There's not really any particularly safe or guaranteed option here. Alright, yep, Minato will backdash into that Sacrament of Blades at range 6, getting hit for 3 and letting Geoffrey heal. Yep, thanks to the transformation on Barnstorming, however, Minato can return that attack to his hand because it did not hit.
Yeah. The life advantage might look like it's going in Geoffrey's favor, but Minato is really getting scary with these transformations coming into play.
Oh, I forgot to update the overlay with the current characters. Let me correct that real quick.
Each transformation that Minato puts down, another limb of a vehicle is sprouting from his white tuxedo-clad body.
I didn't actually know vehicles had limbs, but based on the face visible at the bottom left-hand corner of Minato's hot rod, I can see it. It has horns and eyes, and actually, the full art I've seen of this suggests it does indeed have a nose. So I don't see why it couldn't have limbs. Alright, Sacrament was transformed. This lets Geoffrey add guard to his attack by spending a force when he sets. That works in offense or defense. Combining with his character ability, this gives him extremely strong defenses. And at a 9 life advantage, it looks like he probably does have the lead right now. It's a little bit iffy because Minato does not have a conventional playstyle and can win the game without actually killing you. That would be the so-called Dirtle the Turtle line, aka Minato. Alright, Geoffrey decides to...
Cerdin can get me some gelato since he's in here.
That'd be neat. I mean, he does look kind of... That sword could be made of ice. The kind of holy magical glowy sword. Could be ice. Don't see why not. Oh, there's a typo on this character card. It says your evil ends here now. I'm pretty sure that the actual quote is your fun ends here and now. Oh, a cheeky responsive dive covers that initiating spike. Deals 4 damage after armor.
Yeah. He was at 22.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out how to say that.
Oh.
It was EX dive. Withdrawn. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. So, the people who don't understand everything Minato does, which I'm one of them, one of his transformations is that if a sealed area, it's an EX attack. And because dive is in his sealed area, along with almost every single other one of his normals, every normal except for cross and block. That means that any grasp, spike, sweep, or focus is going to be EX.
All right, that is Hellraiser entering play. This is the Minato boost, the quintessential one. Both players discard the top 4 cards of their deck. If anyone's wondering why we call him Minato, that's because mill is a term in Magic that refers to discarding the top card of your deck, named after Millstone, an early Magic card. So this causes players to discard the top 4 cards of the deck, and then it allows Minato to return up to 2 cards from a sealed area to his hands. So it is both an essential component of his recursion engine and also a tool to run the opponent out of options, while he can make use of his extra reshuffle from Barnstorming and his recursion engine in order to prevent himself from decking out.
That's pretty smart that he took back specials instead of his normals, because not only are his specials higher value, but they leave all those normals EX.
Indeed. Pulling up a capstand is basically essential if he wants to keep his recursion engine running, since he did mill the other copy of Hellward Bound, meaning both copies of Hellward Bound are in discard, one copy of capstand remains in the sealed area. These 2 cards comprise the foundation of his recursion from sealed engine, although he can still recur his attacks if they don't hit, thanks to the transformation on Barnstorming. Way to regret.
So if you caught the Minato game yesterday, the one more ride boost, you can clear it like any continuous boost by striking, but any turn you leave it up, he gets to draw more cards from the sealed area back to his hand, just sort of letting him do himself a little more. I thought it was a definite you do you kind of character.
Yep.
Okay.
Ooh, that's quite a hand. All right, so we have a parry that is unsuccessful, causing a hand reveal by Geoffrey. After Geoffrey boosts Fierce on top of his Inviolability boost. So 5, 6, Judgment's, Golden Arrow, and Solemn Exorcism. Judgment's pretty scary here. It catches the Barnstorming, because Barnstorming cannot move past it, so it can't escape. And it deals, 11 damage? Yeah, that's that sure is a number. If EX. 10 if not.
Not lethal yet, though.
Not lethal. Not lethal. And it would spend 3 gauge, which is pretty important because running the opponent out of resources...
Hold on. Are we missing this? Or do you do the grasp in play, the plus...
Oh, the +2 power in play makes that EX a 13 damage threat. Okay, he is threatening lethal. That's pretty funny.
Nope.
Also, with that boost, opponents cannot move you. It doesn't even lose to grasp. Oh, it isn't inviolable judgments. He spent a force for a +2 guard per his transformation, Ministry of Saints. So he no longer has the gauge for it.
A chance to get out of that corner. Yeah.
We just saw that hands. 5, 6 inviolable. This could be a hard read, or it could just be assault. All right. Well, that's a 6 power assault, gaining advantage. Minato seals the top 2 cards with discard pile. Seals a card from discard pile and discards a card from gauge to generate 2 force for 6 armor, taking no damage. Anyone wondering how he did that? That is Minato's character ability. To generate force or gauge, you can seal the top card of his discard pile. 1 for 1 for force, 3 for 1 for gauge. Note that you can't spin the same card twice. So like if it in that way. So if you wanted to spin 3 force, you couldn't spin a card from your hand and then seal that same card from your discard pile. You declare all the cards you're spending, and then they all move to their destination zones at the same time.
Easy. Perfectly balanced.
In every way. So, Geoffrey has the assault landed and needs to decide how to follow it up. Looks like Geoffrey is considering striking again.
If anyone is actually watching this stream and is new to Exceed, which the chances are pretty slim, but they're still there, just know that there are plenty of characters out there for you if this doesn't seem to fit your playstyle.
Yes.
Season 2 is known for its complexity, which for some people is a huge draw. And what's really nice is that they're mostly balanced, I would say almost entirely balanced against later seasons. Seasons have slightly easier lines to follow, easier strategies to understand as you pick them up.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely. Interseason balancing is foundational to Exceed. It's a huge part of playtesting. It's something that we care about quite a lot.
yeah, as someone who's been playtesting for about a year and a half and was on the dev team with D's nice new cards that D has been making for us, he was the Season 5 developer, and we tested heavily in the previous seasons.
Maintaining that balance for cross-season play is fundamental to the, it's one of the core principles of Exceed, that you can play any character from any season into any other character from any season. Season 1 had some balance and design issues, which caused us to have to remove it from rotation. It also has availability problems. Catching back up with this, looks like you're in a Solemn Exorcism. Trading... Oh! Crusader's Oath is going to miss. Is going to hit, and Cross is going to miss. This is a very rude card. So attacks with higher speed, and that does not say printed, so just higher speed. Do not hit Crusader's Oath, meaning you can use it to dodge a fast attack.
This is the Siesta versus Red Bull strategy that we were predicting.
I'm not sure what's causing the hand reveal here.
Those were all known cards anyway, so I don't know.
Oh, it looks like it changed cards.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was Inquisition. Inquiring minds may wonder. Alright, Minato chooses not to return the cross to his hands as part of Weight of Regrets effect. And Crusader's Oath should be engaged, which I'm sure they'll fix momentarily.
As part of National Fragrance Day, I am starting to smell the salt.
That makes sense. The situation does kind of stink for Minato. He is going to... Well, Inviolable Judgment is no longer being threatened, so he could still try to escape if he happened to be holding on to a Barnstorming. That might be the play here. If Geoffrey manages to read it successfully, he could potentially answer with a a Sacrament of Blades or a Golden Arrow. Oh, it's also possible that this card actually did move to the gauge and it's just bugging on my screen, or for the spectators. Alright, so Minato's initiating at range 2. He has a lot of options here he can threaten. I mean, he's actually threatening EX Sweep, EX Spike. Let's see, EX Bus Stop, and of course EX Barnstorming. Is he threatening? Yes, he is threatening a streetcar named Disaster, since he can seal 3 cards from his discard, the top 3 cards of his discard, to generate a gauge to make up the remaining cost. That'd be a lot of damage. Streetcar doesn't feel particularly safe here, but he might just be going for a high-risk play to get a high reward. Alright, Geoffrey is going to hit first. Oh no, it's EX. It's EX. Alright, so Minato spends 2 force for the extra 2 power, dealing a total of 7, and pushing Geoffrey 2 spaces away. Whew.
He's going to be feeling a lot more comfortable now than he was a second ago.
Yes, that's a huge deal. Not only is he at range where he is quite a bit better off in general, he's evened up the life totals substantially. Whew. Good hit. Alright, well, he is no longer threatening... Yeah, he's not threatening any EX Dive. And at range 4, he really only threatens Jump the Shark. Jump the Shark, however, is extremely powerful here. It has... let's see, 7 power? No, 6 power. But it's at speed 6, or speed 7, because it's EX, actually. Oh, what's this? Looks like Minato is taking a move action. Moves forward 1 space. Yep. Draws for a turn. Now is threatening that streetcar to close the game. Is also threatening EX Spike. Is also threatening Jump the Shark. This is a mini-way mix-up. None of them look especially good for Geoffrey. Oh, what's this? 1 force to advance 1.
Piloted by Cerdin, though. Cerdin's no stranger to footsies.
Indeed, I've heard he actually has an extra foot to accomplish those footsies, but I'm not sure if that actually will help you in a TTS environment. In-person tournaments, it doesn't matter.
That 3rd foot made him an especially dangerous dermatologist in his youth.
At range 2, he is threatening Crusader's Oath. Looks like Minato boosted speed, and then Geoffrey responded with speed, so he's not looking to threaten that 2nd copy of Crusader's Oath. As a reminder for those watching the stream, I believe it is a visual glitch that this Crusader's Oath is in the center of the table. It is probably actually engage.
Yeah, it's not showing up. It's engaged on TTS.
Okay, yeah, so on your screen it's showing up correctly? Yeah, it's just my end then.
Yes.
Alright, that's just a TTS bug. Objects are known to occasionally appear to be in the wrong place. I've also had this happen in real life. I went to draw a card from my deck, and instead I picked up a drink. It was very strange. So, speed is being contested at range 2. Geoffrey does have 2 gauge. Minato has some difficult decisions to make here.
Well, the rules are different now in this strange Wizards tournament we find ourselves in, fighting for the possible future of this ravaged landscape.
This is true. Yeah, once again to emphasize, this is a very unusual game. Minato is one of the more complex characters, one of the hardest to play, and one of the more difficult to understand. He has a lot of stuff going on. Most games of Exceed look a lot more like just a regular fighting game, just a straight-up slugfest. But Minato basically has a mini game that he plays on the side, and he doesn't need to participate in the regular fighting game of Exceed as often.
So Minato is a JRPG.
Yeah, essentially. Spreadsheet-based combat. Let's go. I like spreadsheets.
I could save the world, or I could race birds.
Yeah, I mean, racing birds seems like a perfectly reasonable way to spend your time. Spend 2 or 3 months doing that, and then go and take care of whatever overarching threat is looming to destroy all of humanity.
Yeah.
That's like the Minato Jeanette matchup in a nutshell. Oh, reading!
Oh, okay, this could be it.
Will it land? It does not.
Oh.
Okay, so we have... Oh, Arrow, Inquisition, Exorcism, and Crusader's Oath.
So EX Golden Arrow is not going to do anything for Geoffrey here.
Nope. Actually,
and
he could play... Inquisition is also not any good. He could play Block, he could play Solemn Exorcism, and he could play Crusader's Oath, depending on what he thinks Minato's going to run. And depending on what he readings, that could actually give a lot of information into what Minato set as his attack. Meaning,
what would be really great, though, if he wild swings and MadFnorder loses.
I mean, that's practically guaranteed. We know that MadFnorder can't be wild swings, so if Geoffrey responds with
one...
one...
And I don't know if we've seen a defensive wild swing from Cerdin.
I don't think we've seen one yet. He has been responding from hand with pretty confident defensive options. Slurpin asked me, what kind of drink? Mountain Dew Code Red. Far as I can tell, it phased in from somewhere across the room. I did get my deck back, though. It had just relocated itself. It happens. Alright. So, depending on the reading there, the reading is probably Grasp. Grasp is the safest reading at range, simply because it doesn't give any information away. Like, if you're reading Grasp at range 2, then that means you're probably going to play something that beats Grasp, which is literally anything. So not much information was bled there, making life hard for Geoffrey. Huh?
As one final giveaway, in honor of National French Bread Day, we're giving out stale baguettes that you are more than welcome to take home with you. They make excellent clubs to fend off the zombie hordes.
You know, I feel like that actually goes, that aligns quite well with the priorities of National Fragrance Day. I wonder if they're in cahoots. It's a little suspicious.
Some French bread.
Mm-hmm.
Just like my mother. Like a mama always made.
Ah, okay. That's a important qualification there.
my mother who smelled like corn dog.
Geoffrey responds with Block. Oh! EX Spike will crush that, dealing 6 damage and bringing the game that much closer to a close. Geoffrey should have discarded the boost before the attack, but he doesn't care about discard order. Minato needs to be a lot more careful about his own discard order. There's a few characters in the game who actually care about the order of the cards in their discard pile. There's quite a few where it doesn't really matter, unless you're playing against Rinea, who cares about the order of her opponent's discard pile. But Minato is one of the characters who cares the most, so it's important to pay attention to that. Geoffrey prepares, probably hoping that that remaining Crusader's Oath is going to save him. Minato initiates with the last card in hand. Whatever it is, he must be confident in it. And he has reason to be. Cavstand is going to dodge the Crusader's Oath. He spins 1 force by sealing top card of his discard pile to close 1. He could actually spin more than that if he wanted to, but he chooses not to. And then after he advances 3, putting him out of range of Crusader's Oath, and eliminating the threat of Crusader's Oath. He did miss, but he can return his attack to his hand if he wishes to, thanks to the transformation on Barnstorming. Looks like he plans on doing just that. This is a very dangerous situation. That is actually an EX cap stand because he has the other copy sealed. So he is basically threatening to run this same attack for the rest of the game until Geoffrey does something that can beat it. And it's not looking good. FGC Schlagerberg FGC asks, is that a Garu playmat? Yes, there's a fan-made Garu Mark of the Train playmat over on the left side of the screen. The same person made Legal Woohoo, Poke Floats. Was that it? I feel like they made another one, but I mean, I guess not because there's only 3 in the module here. All right, looks like
the secret floating spider mat.
Oh well, we don't talk about the secret floating spider mat. I mean, all right.
There is no spider level.
Looks like Geoffrey's thinking of a change cards action. Oh no, a spinning force to play Holy Wings, moving any number of spaces, choosing to retreat 3, which is, you know, functionally the same as just spinning 3 force to retreat either way. Let's see if I can find it. There you go. Alright. So
most importantly, we know that he has an EX.
He has EX Capstan on tap.
And Capstan will beat Golden Arrow at this point.
It will. Yep. So he sealed the top card of his discard to advance 1, taking center stage, threatening that Cap stands. I'm not sure what Geoffrey can do about this. He might be able to build up enough armor to tank the hit, but it will be difficult, and he has to draw into the right cards. I think the only card he can use to tank it potentially is oh, what's this? His focus. Here we go. Golden Change. Yep, that gives him +2 armor. Oh. Minato says, alright, that's fine. I didn't need to play Capstand anyway. I'm going to boost 1 more right and return Jump the Shark to hands. Which is currently threatening, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 5 damage? Well, I mean, it's more than enough to kill him.
It deals more than 1.
Yes. More than a... So the breakpoint right now that matters is 4, because Geoffrey's ability is likely to give him +1 armor, and then he has +2 on the boost in play. So 4 damage is threatening lethal. 5 threatens lethal against an attack that has 1 printed armor, which is one of Geoffrey's specials, Bastion Stance.
Everyone queue up your Europe tracks, because I think we're about to reach the final countdown here.
Which is appropriate for a national countdown day. We have changed cards, desperately looking for answers. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is digging deep into that deck. There's only 6 cards remaining in deck. Will we be able to draw something that actually helped him survive? I have no idea. It's looking rough. Minato has a wide variety of options at his disposal, and he's currently, despite only being at 6 life, he's in control of the game. He has faster attacks, and Geoffrey cannot threaten to play Crusader's Oath. So if Minato isn't careless, he will probably be able to close the game in the next 2 or 3 turns. Yeah, players are taking the time thinking about their plays here. This is decisive because if Geoffrey is able to come back and close the game to capitalize on a mistake that Minato makes, for example, then he will take the set on behalf of his player. If Minato is able to win this game, then they will go on to Game 3, where we might see another Geoffrey come out, or we might see the 3rd character in that lineup hit the board.
Can you remind viewers what will happen to the game?
The winner, I believe they are crowned King of America and given absolute authority over card games.
But the loser, more specifically.
Oh, the loser. Well, they are balked on the head and sent to loser's bracket, where they must battle to survive in the Shadow Realm.
Yes. The winner also gets a roll of toilet paper, which is almost as valuable.
It is. In this economy, such commodities are worth their weight in, well, paper, actually.
So yeah, I've learned that you have a phobia for petticoats.
That's true. I can't draw them. I can't compete in drawing contests about them, and I am terrified of them. I recently was on a Twitch stream with a friend who was trying to create some sort of artistic design related to petticoats, and I had to flee in terror. It was too much for me. Are you? I believe that you're versed in the art of combat in competitive petticoat drawing. Is that correct?
Yes, I came in second place behind Billy Farnsworth, who was just a masterful petticoat drawer.
That is just uncomfortably terrifying for me. So it looks like Minato chose to advance one, spinning one for especially on the top card of his discard pile, moving to range 3, picking up the other cab stand from hand so that if something terrible does happen, his recursion engine doesn't break. Geoffrey's going to try to run away.
Our Boy Scouts troop was pretty progressive in its day.
That's interesting. I've never participated in the Boy Scouts, but I have it on good authority from a Boy Scout that they are very honorable and should be believed whenever they say something. Looks like Minato is considering advancing.
Fun fact and true fact, believe this or not, I left Boy Scouts after they gave me my knife license. The day they gave me my knife license, I left.
I guess you kind of got what you needed?
I got exactly what I needed.
No, that makes sense. I mean, this is... So I live in Texas. There's just an implicit knife license as soon as you cross the border. And if on birth, they hand you, like, a card with your thumbprint and then, like, permission to carry a blade. Oh, it's not permission. It's compulsory. If you're caught without a knife on your person, you're ejected from the state. No refunds. All right, we have a second copy of Golden Chains. Geoffrey looking to tank up. There is a chance that he might be able to accumulate enough armor. Oh, well, okay, there's the tech. Minato plays tech to get rid of one of those armor boosts and picks up the other dive from his sealed area thanks to the transformation, or thanks to the boost. One more right, excuse me. All right. Oh ho.
Okay, that's big. That actually is very big.
It is. Geoffrey transforms Bastion Stance, gaining Untainted. If he has 5 or less life, he may gain a life instead of drawing at the end of his turn. This slows his progression toward decking out, and it also lets him start accumulating life, which means that he is likely to be able to survive whatever Minato decides to throw at him, even if it's a boat.
We are going to forgive him, though, for expressly moving against the Spirit Countdown Day.
That's true. Counting up is doing it literally backwards. I will say this. My camera is currently aligned to the MadFnorder side of the table, so the opponent is upside down relative to me, so I think it's easy to confuse which direction you're supposed to count. All right, Minato is probably going to try something fairly aggressive, or he could just play that tech again. Looks like he is sealing the dive to close one, and then returning the other dive, threatening EX dive from hands. Playing it relatively safe here. I think he also has access to... No, he might not have access to EX Streetcar. I'm unsure because he has 1 Streetcar in hands. But because he would be sealing the top 9 cards of his discard pile if he decided to play it, to generate the gauge necessary to pay for it, that might include a copy of Streetcar. Oh, what's this? Is this a reading? Can they beat the EX
dive? Let's hope he remembered that when you read, they can play EX. So this is a speed 5. If he remembered correctly doing... Oh, he knew he was going to lose the speed anyway.
He did. No, he did it right. So he has 5 total armor against 6 power, and he's going to take 1 damage and then hit back for 3, which will not close the game. So this was interesting. Yeah, the second copy drops on reveal, and then the boost goes away at the end of the strike. So this means Minato has to either... Wait.
Something didn't happen.
Yes. There.
There it
That's
is.
kind of important. Because it means, for example,
Minato
he can't...
drove the car into Geoffrey and was chasing after finally caught.
Yep. So Geoffrey played reading to force Minato to play EX dive. Well, to play dive, and then Minato chose to EX, ending up in a close range trade. So Minato is now checking Geoffrey's discard pile to see what the remaining threats are. If nothing beats Cab Stand, he will probably play it. But the remaining focus, if it... Wait, no, it can't exist. He just played reading and then he played focus. Okay. So if not that, Grasp is, I think, the only thing that beats EX Cab Stand here. Oh, it's not EX, though. So it's only speed 5. Alright, well that means Minato is likely to have to boost in order to prevent himself from milling out and to keep his engine running. Minato really straining to keep his recursion engine running when he has so few resources remaining. It's definitely doable, but that is going to generate a lot of fumes on this day of aromas. I believe Minato consumed his reshuffle, but I could be mistaken. It's kind of hard to keep track.
It's been a day, and Minato's not the easiest character to keep track of.
Yeah, I know he landed a barnstorming once, so it's quite possible that he did not consume it and I've simply lost track. Either way, it is to Minato's advantage to not use his reshuffle for as long as possible. Alright, Minato has the turn and is trying to make sure he doesn't choke, basically.
Both combatants seem to be resting up for this final strike.
His options are limited.
You can't hear them, but Minato is monologuing the power of evil. Geoffrey is saying that friends are the real power.
Geoffrey is saying that? Somebody handed him a script.
Sure.
That doesn't sound like the Geoffrey I know. Minato does boost one more ride, returning to hands the Grasp, evidently, which is not EX, worth noting. Geoffrey taking a move action to move to range... Wait, what? Did he spend 3 force or just 2? I guess he spent 3. I missed the third card, though. Chooses to draw for the end of turn instead of gaining life. Alright, that is out of range of the Grasp in Minato's hands, but it does not get rid of that one more ride boost, which means Minato will now be able to steal some cards by spending force and then recurring another card.
One more time around this wild carousel.
One more ride.
Like a sugar-doped up kid at Disney World, Minato wants as many rides as he can get, actually.
Yeah, this is pretty much peak Minato here, is taking all the turns you can without even having any cards in your deck. And it's just cycling some cards between hands, discard, and sealed area, using the same things over and over.
What is checking the game state? In case people are wondering, so one of the few, it's funny to say this in the round we're playing, but I would honestly say one of the few finicky that's hard to keep track of when you're first learning is that one force will move you 1 space, but to move over a character you have to spend 2 force. Any card that gives you movement options, like advance or a move action, you can just, not a move action, but a move effect, you don't have to pay extra or take extra movement to go over them. But when you're discarding, take the move action, you do.
Yep. So this is basically, it's the cross-up tax. The idea is if you've played an actual fighting game, it tends to be more difficult to cross up the opponent, so you move past them, because you have to, basically spend some extra effort or make some kind of special move that will get you to the other side of them. This means it's difficult to get out of the corner. So modeling that in Exceed, we have the move action costing 1 additional force, but if you can play an effect that lets you move, then you just simply skip their space entirely. But yeah, it's usually best to think of it just as an additional cost. It looks like Geoffrey decided to, prepare instead. Alright. The question is now, does he have anything left that will beat the face-up grasp? It's not actually face-up, but when Minato only has 2 options in hand that hit, one of them is extremely risky and one of them is extremely safe, it's pretty face-up. If Geoffrey has a block remaining, then this still isn't a checkmate. Of course, there is a tradition in Exceed. If you call checkmate, you will lose the game immediately thereafter. Luckily, I'm not playing. So I can call checkmate here, and then I'll lose a game somewhere, but it won't be this one.
Yeah. The real pro stats are that when you're tired and want to go to bed, you just yell checkmate. Start the
game. It saves a lot of time that way.
Yeah.
Other recommended strategies, if you want to have very short games, are play Taisei, play Akuma, play Akuma into Taisei, or what else?
Only Wild Swing as Dan.
So play Dan.
Well, if you need.
I mean, I do find it difficult to wild swing as Dan when I'm not playing Dan, but I'm sure there's a way. I guess you could play Amina, but Amina does not lend to short games. Alright, looks like we have a really large move action. Backing up to range 6 and then returning cab stand to hand. Apparently going to take the middle line. It must mean that Geoffrey is out of projectiles to threaten lethal at this range. Since we Minato.
He is. I forget if he's reshuffled.
Geoffrey, I'm almost certain has. Minato, I think
could
has.
Be a mill.
But it looks like that's what's going to happen. So Minato is a car. Cars generate exhaust, and he is trying to exhaust his opponent's deck.
No, except Geoffrey can gain life instead of...
That's true. So Geoffrey probably... So was that a... That looks like a change card 0 action. Meaning for a very short... So he takes the change cards action where you spend cards to draw, but the force he spent was 0, meaning he drew 0 cards, and then he would have drawn for end of turn, but he used the transformation Untainted to gain a life instead. Now that will only work for a limited amount of time.
The problem with this strategy, though, is that cab stand as a boost.
Yes, cab stand being in play as a boost means that Minato also can spend turns not doing anything except gathering more resources. If Geoffrey doesn't have any projectiles, he will still lose this war.
Minato is going to win the turtle fight.
2 turtles staring at each other across the stage. One with a shell, one on wheels. Who will win? Probably the one on wheels, yeah.
Oh, marvelous he. He was the king. All of Exceed. Well, as we face this incredibly slow, possibly not so final countdown to the end.
Yep, Geoffrey strikes. Yep, that makes sense. He is taking a move action by striking from hand is basically what he's doing. That dive will move him forward 3 spaces. Minato, of course, responds with a card that will not cause him to draw anything, because he doesn't want to draw from an empty deck. He just wastes, so quote-unquote, wastes the grasp, but then returns it to hand with the transformation Weight of Regrets. Oh, what a game states. Minato in games look very strange, based on regular Exceed play. If you learn the game in Season 3, this is an alien setting entirely. Very unique. So
much like this wonderful pocket dimension that you created for us to... So, thank you. Thank you for this.
You're welcome. This is like a reading? And then he needs to play something. Oh, he's striking so that he can use the transformation of Flight 13 to steal a card from his discard, I bet. Yeah, it looks like it. He's outrunning the pass to seal, jump the strike from his discard, which makes it an EX attack. Sealing only 1 card means he draws 0. And then he's going to strike with the... He sets a face up, despite not actually needing to. So this has power 3, 4, 5, 6... enough.
Enough. Power enough.
Power enough over 2 armor, deals lethal. sealing the game, no pun intended, in favor of Minato. That means we will be going on to Game 3. Let me update the tally. All right. Switching back to that splash screen. Geoffrey lives, Shovel and Shield are dead, and Zsolt lives. And then Minato,
as punishment for winning, is banished.
He ascends to glory on his hot rod. Although if you look at his arts, the car is definitely pointed in a downward direction. Don't read too much into that. So Beheaded or Carl versus Geoffrey or Zsolt.
And with that break that the competitors are going to take, I actually am going to be signing out.
Oh, thank you very much for joining me.
Pressing issues to deal with. But again, this has been Petersonian with these sweet plays.
Commentating this round of Matchup Madness Elimination, and I will be continuing. The players taking a 2-minute break. Petersonian will be heading off. Thank you very much for joining Petersonian. Have a good one. I will see you around.
Thank you.
Bye. Alright, so the players are going to take a break for about 2 minutes. I'm going to stay connected and just turn the music up. So please relax for a bit. I will announce when we are getting ready to resume. Okay, here we go. Looks like it's going to be Geoffrey again versus Carl, the robot. Carl Swanji from Penny Arcade's Automata, a noir-style mystery webcomic for mature audiences. Alright, let's get that up on the screen. Alright. Looks like Carl is going to go first, Geoffrey going second. We're still at Mulligan. So you've already seen Geoffrey in action. Carl is he's a grappler. He's a close range heavyweight. Very, very dangerous at range 1. His character ability gives him extra armor if the opponent's attack is a special, letting him lose less when he loses, win more when he trades, specifically into specials. Playing into normals and running mix-ups and winning mix-ups means you are not vulnerable to this effect and will help you win the game. He has some very interesting card shapes, so just gonna look at this reference for a bit. Seize and Assist is a card that doesn't really lose too much of anything except for focus. Disarming Strike is kind of like a faster version of Assault, although it's pretty bad against Geoffrey because of his extra defenses. Same with Improvised Weapon. Geoffrey's defenses make that not very useful. Power Short, on the other hand, has a printed speed of 2, and has 7 power, which is pretty huge. And then Spongy Elbow is Geoffrey's worst nightmare, as it ignores armor and guard. Alright, mulligan complete. Alright, Carl boosts C&D to close up to 6. That is an unusual boost in the numeric value that it provides, but he kind of needs it. He doesn't really perform well at range. Alright. Now at range 1, normally Geoffrey would be comfortable trading, but he has to live in fear of Spongy Elbow. In general, Carl inspires a lot of fear with his plays. He can bonk you out of what would normally be very safe moves, and he can throw surprise EXs thanks to his unique mechanic. So, despite being released in Season 2, Carl does not have transformations. He's not a character from 7th Cross. He has Overload. His Ultras have the effect, you may place this card face down with any normal attack to form an EX attack, so he can create EX attacks out of normals more easily, and retain the threat of the other copy. Speaking of EX Sweep, get stuffed by an offensive dive at range 1. Geoffrey looking to obtain some distance and beat cleanly a defensive play. Carl parries. Does not land. Okay, 07 Arrow, Sacrament Bastion. Probably looking for that Inquisition or maybe a Crusader's Oath, and doesn't land on either. Alright. Pretty harsh turn of events for Carl. Puts Geoffrey at an early advantage thanks to the loss of Sweep and an Ultra. Sweep is a pretty high value special, especially if you're normal, especially if you're planning on trading into your opponent, which against Geoffrey is usually your best bet. You either want to evade him completely or trade with him. It's hard to win strikes outright. Carl is uniquely able to do it, of course, with his ability to potentially EX spike more often than normal, EX dive, and or playing Spongy Elbow, excuse me. Oh, so previous games I was, in the previous game I was intentionally mispronouncing character names. I think Spongy is the correct pronunciation here. Huh. What? Alright. My mistake, interrupting the game. Trying to make sure game state is maintained. In this case, I am in error. Alright, so I believe Geoffrey prepped in response, and then Carl is initiating at range 1. I need to keep my eyes on the screen here. It's pretty hard to follow the action once it gets rolling, although the lulls make it difficult. So Geoffrey needs to respond, either call the mix-up or just wild swing. Power short? Okay, that'll trade. So it hits for 5 after armor. 4 after armor. And then Carl takes 4 damage in return. There we go. Power short is a very unusual card. It annihilates Grasp. On defense, it loses the sweep, so it's not usually played on defense, usually played on offense. Alright, we have an offensive assault by Geoffrey, going to land at range 1, gaining advantage, dealing 4 damage, giving him a 3rd point of gauge, letting him threaten inviolable judgments. The Crusader's Oath component of his Ultra Mix-Up was already live. Alright, Geoffrey initiates, Carl continues wild swinging, gets a block. Decides if he's going to spin Force, decides not to, takes 1 damage, gains gauge. Carl prepares. So does Geoffrey. Interesting series of strikes. Carl is normally more reliable at range 1. But in this case, he lost consecutively. Carl prepares again, passing the turn to Geoffrey. Admittedly, the block wasn't a very significant loss. Alright. Geoffrey plays Golden Chains. It gets teched by Carl, who does not want to have to deal with those extra defenses. This is a pretty surprising play. I would normally expect Carl to actually just initiate with a dive, since that is an effective speed of 6, meaning it jumps over Geoffrey and dodges his attack, whatever it might be. He also could have initiated with a spike, if he had it. As with mini grapplers, it often comes down to what threats do you actually have in hand, not just what threats are online. Grapplers frequently rely on in-the-moment mix-ups. Waiting on Geoffrey's play after that tech. We have a reading. It is unsuccessful. Interesting, it wasn't calling Grasp, which is the safe reading at range 3. Oh my goodness. Alright, so whatever Geoffrey called, he played a sweep, and Carl responded with EX sweep, which will deal 7 damage, crushing that sweep, and giving him the strike handily. That was impressive. So that turns the tide pretty handily, giving Carl an advantage when previously he was losing. Sweep effect going to force that discard. Once again, this actually puts the discard out of order, but Geoffrey does not care about discard order, and neither does Carl, so it's not the worst. Alright. Carl prepares, not afraid of the back-to-back reading. Oh, actually, because it doesn't exist. Geoffrey's other focus is engage. Picks up that hands, telegraphing an intent to strike. Will he do so? Flip-flopping on that decision. And on which part of the mix-up he decides to run. Strikes with 1 card. Alright, Geoffrey needs to respond. So the range 3 mix-up is traditionally spike assaults, and then sweep. Alright, it was Spike. Geoffrey responds with cross and back dashes out of range. This definitely gives Geoffrey an advantage. He has 2 projectiles, which are effective at greater ranges, and Carl has 1, which against Geoffrey does literally nothing. If Geoffrey initiates, then improvised weapon, which only has 1 power, will deal 0 damage. And then its hit effect says, if the opponent initiated, return this to your hand, otherwise gain advantage. So Geoffrey initiates, improvised weapon will deal 0 damage and then return to Carl's hands, which means it's not even giving him gauge. That means in terms of the projectile meta, Carl's is useless. Alright, he boosts cross to run in, goes to range 2, he has Geoffrey in the corner. Range 2 is interesting, it means that Crusader's Oath is online. But Carl has a decent number of slow options to threaten, so he might not be afraid of it. Is this a Holy Wings? Yes, it is. Geoffrey boosts Holy Wings, moves any number of spaces, chooses to move 8, and then spins a gauge to return it to his hands. Alright, the fighters are currently at range 6. As previously mentioned, Geoffrey has 2 projectiles which work here. Carl has 0. If he has C&D, he's likely to boost it. Otherwise, yep, here we go, move action. Gets rid of that disarming strike, and a copy of Spongy Elbow, which is unfortunate. It's always a fun threat to have. That means whatever he has left, he actually values more than retaining that copy of Elbow, which is interesting. Putting him at range 4 means that he can now threaten to potentially beat both those projectiles with an EX dive on defense. Although Geoffrey could also choose to bait that attack by playing something slow to trade with it. Or, you know, Crusader's Oath to dodge it. Crusader's Oath has immense potential to warp mix-ups. Hey, Geoffrey, it's nice to see you. For those watching this video on YouTube, I'm streaming on Twitch, so I'll occasionally speak to the people in chat. Inquisition, transform from hand. Oh dear. Fortunately, Carl isn't especially boost reliant, but this is compulsive purification. So this is a transformation that says when the opponent plays a boost after paying cost before decisions, you may spend 2 force. So for example, you could say, I play reading, and then Geoffrey says, no you don't. Because if you do, it is discarded without effect. Note that you need to give him the opportunity to do this before you name the card, if you play reading or parry or such effects. Otherwise, you're just giving him extra information that he shouldn't have. It is pretty obnoxious. It allows him to turn off things like Lights, Defend, Fierce, and then any given special boost depending on your character, or Ultra Boost. Carl doesn't have any Ultra Boost though. He uses Overload to gain his stats, which means he's not as effective as some characters would be. We give Sacrament into C&D. Okay, so Sacrament wins that speed tie, is going to hit for 0. C&D draws a card, doesn't do anything. However, because Sacrament has hit gain 2 life, this definitely worked out in Geoffrey's favor. Carl moves into range 3. So again, pressuring that range 3 mix-up. The Spike Assault Sweep trio. Geoffrey preps. We have an EX attack from Carl. So, you know, statistically it could be normal, but he can always choose to EX his specials if he happens to have the special in hand. He just can't use Overload to do it. Geoffrey choosing his response. In situations like this, a player will often just try to figure out what the thing is that they don't want to lose to. Meaning what is your worst case, and then filter that. Filtering refers to the idea of play a thing that beats a certain section of the possible attacks your opponent can play. So that way, like, the space of attacks that you lose to is filtered by the attack that you play. If this is EX Assault, Geoffrey could play Crusader's Oath. If it's EX Spike, he could play Crusader's Oath or Assault. If it's EX Sweep, he could play Dive. Alright, looks like Geoffrey is making his decision. Maybe. So typically the decision is only this difficult if you have an option that very effectively covers one side of the mix-up. And you're simply debating whether or not that's the side you want to cover. If your hand has no options that work, then it's generally better to just wild swing. It is the EX Spike, which will absolutely destroy that Solemn Exorcism, dealing 6 damage. Whew. That was unfortunately not the correct call. So Geoffrey gets stuffed. It is now Geoffrey's turn. Is that 4 gauge for Carl? That looks like only 3 gauge. Alright. So he cannot yet exceed. Carl's exceed mode gives all of his normals +2 power, making his overload effects and just overall all of his mix-ups that much scarier. Winning those two strikes, the EX Sweep and just now the EX Spike, as heavily as he did, is definitely giving him the edge in this matchup at the moment. Alright, we have a defend, boost, and shrink play by Geoffrey, getting some more armor. I believe Carl is out of spikes, I could be mistaken. He boosts Fierce. Interesting. Needs to draw for in a turn. Oh, no, he's waiting for Geoffrey to declare whether or not he's allowed to boost it. His turn isn't over. So this is where compulsive purification comes into play. So amusingly, Crusader's Oath covers EX Spike, but not regular Spike. Alright, looks like he's spinning 2 Force to prevent that boost from entering play. Spinning it from Gauge, which turns off the Ultra threat. That is interesting. So Geoffrey is no longer threatening either of his Ultras. Life will be difficult for him. Alright, looks like Geoffrey's planning on initiating a strike. Or at least considering it. Evidently that's just a change card 0. Simply drawing 1 card for in a turn. Whew. So change card 0, while legal, is a very situational action. It isn't helping you progress toward your in-game. It's just maintaining the status quo. So it's only good in Zugzwang, a situation, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, where any action you take puts you in a worse position. And these kind of situations are extremely rare in Exceed. Alright, so Carl is asking permission to play the Reading Boost. Geoffrey is going to deny it, which is almost certainly correct. Yep, it just burns 2 Force out of Geoffrey's reserve. Carl draws for in a turn. Geoffrey now preps. Brings it back to Carl. Jeppy says, does Jeff care about staying in the corner? I don't know, it means he's not vulnerable to dive, and I think there is another copy of dive remaining, so that's nice. He can also be fairly confident that Carl won't want to cross out or retreat from him, so like knocking dive out as a threat and effectively mitigating the value of cross is pretty good. Being in close range with Carl is terrifying for various reasons, but Geoffrey's probably one of the most comfortable with it, because there's only so many copies of Spongy Elbow to go around, and one of them has already dropped this game. Oh hey, I just noticed that they put up the fan-made card reference for Carl Spongy. Alright, looks like Carl is initiating with 1 card at range 3. Geoffrey's in the corner. This could be any number of things, but we know it's not Spike, so Geoffrey is likely to play a defensive option. You know it's not Spike unless I miscounted, but I'm pretty sure that both Spikes are currently down. Geoffrey considering his defense. So he has 7 cards in hand, so he has a lot of options available to him. 4 in deck, so he should have a pretty good idea of what those are. Meaning he can mostly choose his defense. He just has to decide what he's willing to lose to, and how. That is how I used to pronounce it, Jeppies. I heard recently that's the correct pronunciation of Spongy. I don't know for sure if it's correct. Oh! Ow! Okay, alright. Carl paying a pretty high price here, so he knew this attack wouldn't do much. This is an improvised weapon. It is 1 power, and Geoffrey had 1 armor thanks to his boost. So Carl knew in advance this wasn't going to do much. But he gains advantage, and it gives him his 4th gauge essentially guaranteed. So he chose to take that hit in order to be able to afford to succeed. Spins 4 gauge, flips his character, and now his normals have +2 power for the rest of the game. This gives him a distinct advantage, even though he will have to contend with the possible threat of Crusader's Oath, now that Geoffrey has 2 gauge. Scary robot. Alright, looks like Geoffrey preps. Or, actually, I think that was a change card 0. And that was a prep by Carl. Leaving only 1 card in his deck, I believe. Yep. If Geoffrey has access to focus, a reading could be pretty potent here. But I'm not sure if he does. Ignore the W. So, Sangi? Alright, paying a force for Holy Wings. Running across the map, spinning gauge returns to hand, which will again disable the threat of Crusader's Oath. Needs to draw for a turn, there it is. Carl moves 1 space, taking center. He is, as a courtesy, revealing his hands. It is, after all, Common Courtesy Day. That is quite a hand. 1-4-5-5, power short, autonomic response. So, autonomic and dive means that he's threatening an EX dive, which would have 8 power at speed 5. Whew. Even if Geoffrey can trade with that, he probably doesn't want to. Oh. Oh, wow. Giving up a Bastion stance even when the EX dive is likely to come in, and Bastion stance is one of the handful of ways to trade with it effectively. Interesting. Anti-cards discard, 1 card in deck. Yeah, Carl is almost certainly about to switch into reading and then play EX dive. It is a dangerous payouts being threatened here. Opponent has 6 cards in hands. Well, we'll find out shortly. Reading is an essential tool, part of the normal sets, and kind of foundational to high-level play. Parry and reading together are basically the boosts that relate to hand knowledge in the normals. Parry lets you name a card, and then if the opponent has it, they discard it. Whereas reading lets you name a normal and strike, and if the opponent has that normal, they must respond with it. This lets you defuse set play that would otherwise be unbreakable, and in Parry's case, deal with attacks that are otherwise unanswerable, especially very strong, very fast moves that ignore armor, so that you can't normally block through them. These boosts allow for overwhelming attack shapes to be balanced out. Yep, so Carl doing the full analysis. Opponent asks for permission to check the last card, probably confirming that his count is correct, and that those remaining 7 cards are known. And then Carl is likely going to take his best stab at playing a reading with the EX dive, although he might also just not play the reading if he doesn't feel like it's worth it to spend the resource. What? Oh. Okay. 1 card? Well, let's dive. Or it's bait. He could actually play the focus if he thinks that Geoffrey could beat the dive. Although that would trigger a reshuffle, which would be a pretty unusual play. Well, we'll see how Geoffrey responds. He probably has slow trading moves left, which are generally pretty reliable in this situation. He plays block. Ah, it is indeed the dive, so that is a 7 power dive coming in against 3 armor. Geoffrey is currently taking 4 damage and will not be stunned, thanks to his character ability. Spins an ultra to take nothing. Alright. Carl's at range 1, his hand is known, but it's also scary good. That said, that brought Geoffrey back to 2 gauge, which means Crusader's Oath is on the table again. Of course, Carl didn't gain advantage, so it is now Geoffrey's turn. He's striking. That's interesting. There's almost nothing that really beats the focus here. Inquisition would actually do a pretty good job into it, but I think both of them might be down. It could also be a cheeky dive, getting out of melee. Carl doesn't need to play the focus. It is indeed the cheeky dive. Okay, I was about to say, the after effect on focus causes a draw, which triggers the reshuffle before the focus hits discard, which means that focus cannot be drawn again. That's important. Alright, so that was Geoffrey getting out of the corner. That does mean Carl is at range 3. He has EX Assault in hand, as well as an Ultra to threaten the Overload. So, things are pretty scary for Geoffrey right now. Carl trying to reveal the known hand and almost revealing the unknown card as well. No, he did reveal it. Okay, so he reshuffled to conceal that information. Alright, Precision Engineering turns normal for gauge to hand, get that dive back. Adds to your gauge, he's now threatening EX dive. Geoffrey's going to wild swing that last card. Alright, so he should know exactly what this is. Carl should be able to narrow it down to one of 4 options. It is probably the Crusader's Oath. Importantly, if it is an Ultra, it gives Geoffrey the chance to invalidate it after reveal, since if you wild swing an Ultra attack, you don't necessarily have to validate it. If you play one from hand, you must validate it if possible. Carl plays the Assault, perfectly willing to lose to Crusader's Oath. It is just a cross. So, oh, maybe there isn't a Crusader's Oath left. Has my math been wrong all this time? Geoffrey retreats 3 spaces. Carl closes 2. I'm not wrong. All right. 2 Crusader's Oaths and Inviolable Judgments. Nice. Well, Carl calls that bait for what it is. Closes into range 3. Eventually going to just make Geoffrey play it or eat a bunch of damage. Alright, Geoffrey preparing. So the cards in hand that are known are Crusader's Oath, Inviolable Judgments. He can afford Crusader's Oath, so keep that in mind, because any mix-up Carl plays could potentially lose to that. Such as this. This is, the obvious threat here is EX Dive. It loses to Crusader's Oath, but it also dodges it, which means if Geoffrey chooses to play that, he's not getting a lot of value. If he doesn't, though, he could just take 8 damage, which, you know, it's a lot of damage. It could also be the EX Assaults. Yep, that's the Crusader's Oath. So EX Dive will jump over, and both players miss. Discards are all out of order, but luckily neither of these characters care. Okay, the Geoffrey player did it correctly. In Carl's case, the extra copy, which is the Ultra, should have gone out first. Oh well. Alright, Geoffrey prepares, so does Carl. Carl probably feeling pretty comfortable here, especially since Geoffrey has no gauge anymore. Geoffrey probably feeling pretty pressured. Chooses to play Defend, though. Not afraid, probably looking to trade out, deal damage to Carl before he dies. Yes, Ogre, this has been a fun set. Back and forth into close game 3. The first 2 were particularly exciting. I had Petersonian in here doing commentary. He's always an interesting fellow. Let's see. Carl initiates at range 1, so the telegraph here is a Swangy Elbow, which is 1/4/4 with 4 guard and ignore armor and guard, meaning it crushes any defensive play. Geoffrey could beat that with, for example, Grasp or Cross, or he could just call that it's not that, and instead something like an Assault, and play an actual defensive move to try to trade up. He did play the defensive move, but it was the elbow. He will take 4 damage and get stunned, dropping him to 11 life. Well, that's elbow for you. And that is one main reason I am terrified of Carl, since I tend to play heavyweights who are quite vulnerable to getting elbowed. Geoffrey prepares. Carl initiates again. Looking to run aggressive close-range mix-ups, forcing Geoffrey into losing positions until he can trade for lethal. Grasp and a Bastion Stance. Oh my goodness. Well, Grasp will only deal 3 damage, but three damage. Three damage. Yes. But by pushing Geoffrey two spaces, Bastion Stance will not hit, since it has range of 1 to 2. Geoffrey gains extra power, misses, and then retreats 2 more spaces, which does at least put him at range, where Carl doesn't have many options. Ooh, that's an unfortunate Invalid Ultra. That's an unfortunate Invalid Ultra. That's an unfortunate Cross. Alright. Losing to Wild Swings. That's the mad special right there. Carl takes 2 damage, because he has 1 armor against specials, but Geoffrey gains 2 life. Definitely improving his value on that trade. Alright, Carl spins some force to close in, moving back to range 3, where you can run that intense normal mix-up threat. Alright, Geoffrey prepares. So Carl's ability gives him a lot of power, but if Geoffrey wins mix-ups cleanly, which he still can, it won't matter. Carl also prepares, building that full hand of 7 cards. Carl has poor economy, but he benefits from having a lot of cards because it gives him the potential for a greater range of EX attacks. This is also true of other characters, but it's especially true for Carl because of the overload mechanic on his ultras. Geoffrey considering his response. He may choose to press the issue by initiating. He may boost for stats, he may move. You could even change cards to dig for answers. Alright. So here we have a move action, essentially, but it returns to his hand. Yeah, so that's Holy Wings. Okay. Carl closing in. Again, picking up range 4, where he actually has dive to threaten. Alright. So because Carl's at the center of the arena, Geoffrey can't possibly get farther away. He's going to be forced to participate in these mix-ups sooner or later. Geoffrey initiates. 1 card. The main threat here is Golden Arrow. Only really loses to, I believe, EX Dive. Since it is speed 4, and it deals 5 damage, which would actually be 4 thanks to Carl's character ability. If it is... well, it's not Sacrament of Blades, because both Sacraments have now been used. There's one it transforms and one in discard. Yeah. Let me find a copy of Golden Arrow. Oh, here's another copy of Golden Arrow. Alright, so Carl played Sweep, evidently covering the dive. Gets hit for 4 damage after armor. And push back, which is equally relevant. Carl does not do well at range. Whoop. Spins 1 force to close 1. Geoffrey does evidently change cards 0 action. Is he about to deck out? No, 11 cards left. Well, he's not drawing any deeper into his win conditions. Uh, 11 on Geoffrey. 11 on Carl. Both are post reshuffle, if I recall correctly. Carl prepares. So Geoffrey says Carl should boost to get Geoffrey to spin force to discard the boosts. It's viable. The trick there is, of course, that Geoffrey can choose not to spin force to negate the boosts, and a savvy Geoffrey player will evaluate whether or not it's worth it every time you play a boost. And often it just isn't worth it. Geoffrey strikes. So once again, threatening golden arrow or dive. Or bait. Carl responds with C and D. This time it is the dive. So Geoffrey comes in, hits for a 2 after armor. Dropping Carl to 7 life. Then Carl hits back for 3 and draws a card. Okay. They are now at range 1, Carl's favorite range, although 3 is probably his second favorite range. And it is Carl's turn with a full hand of 7 cards. Mix-up intensifies. Carl strikes with a single card from hands. He is actually threatening lethal here. Oh, pulls it back. Strikes with a different card from hand. Probably should have shuffled, so then it's not to give that away. But yeah, he's threatening lethal with sweep, because his sweep is 8 power right now. Which is a lot. And also potentially power short, which is 7. It's block! Baiting out a defensive option, and is effective in doing so. Geoffrey hits, deals no damage because Carl spins for extra armor. Geoffrey draws a card. Interesting. Geoffrey is now at 3 gauge. That's important because it means he can threaten inviolable judgments, which is lethal. Inviolable judgment notably loses to grasp, which is kind of comical considering how big of an attack it is, and grasp is underwhelming. But grasp repositions the opponent, and inviolable judgments only hits at range 1. Alright, Geoffrey initiates. Very intense mix-up here. Could easily be inviolable judgments. I think he might have kept a Crusader's Oath, but I'm not sure of that. Whoop. Carl responds with Grasp, which stuffs the Assault just as well as it would have stuffed the Judgment. Deals 5 minus 1 equals 4 damage. Drops Geoffrey to 3 life. Oof. That was very bad for Geoffrey. But there was not much he could do to beat Grasp other than play a Grasp of his own. Or potentially a sweep or a focus, but those would trade. Assaults? I mean, Assault at range 1 is daring the opponents to play another block or another defensive move to get some damage in. Although, it was somewhat risky. What was he trying to beat? The Assault was the initiator. He wanted to hit, get gauge, gain advantage. That's why it's now Carl's turn, and Carl is initiating at range 3. Geoffrey is trying to decide what to respond with. Oof. That is game. Spike crushes Inviolable Judgment's armor for lethal. I will cleanse this world of all your fun, quoth Geoffrey. Alright, so that's the set. Thank you all very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Once again, this is Matchup Madness, largest Exceed tournament to date, organized by Taxi Cap. Thanks, Taxi. If you're interested in what you've seen here, not familiar with Exceed, this is Exceed Fighting System. If you're interested and you have Tabletop Simulator, you can play it for free. Look for the module XFS Balanced Breakfast. I personally maintain that for the competitive community. And check out the Level 9 Organized Play or Online Play League Discord. I forget what we actually call it. But you can find a link to it on Level 99 sites, where the Exceed community hangs out. You can generally find folks to teach you the game if you're interested, if you haven't played it before, or to talk about it if you're already familiar. Don't think I'm forgetting anything. Thanks to my co-caster who was here earlier, Petersonian, and thanks to everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.